What's up, YouTube? So here we got part two. We had a little bit of technical difficulty with author and soon-to-be speaker Jay in The Sober Son, a memoir. And we last talked about taking responsibility. And Jay, thank you for coming on the show and thank you for your time. It's good to have you.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Love sharing about this stuff.
Okay, so now we're in another part of the book. For my homeless self, it was 9 months of misery. I was running an instant rat race to try to get the next fix. I worked a few dead-end jobs and had to hand a petty theft. And then you were demanding for like some stocks to be sold, $2,200 in stocks.
Yeah.
So take us into the rationality of the addiction. Now you're like really, are you at this point? Are you a full blown addict where
Yeah.
you're homeless, you don't really care about yourself? Um, Take us into that.
Yeah. It's bad, man. So yeah, this would be full blown addiction. So you wake up thinking about how to get high. Uh, Basically every action you do is to get you high. And
How much a day are you burning with the?
I mean, man, it was all over the place. This was back in the day where it was Roxycodone, and so they got up to where they were $30 a piece, and I would at least want five of them a day. Uh, 10 if I could get it, 300 milligrams was a good day. Five would keep you from getting, you'd be all right. And two or three just to not be sick. I mean, yeah, this is full blown at this point.
Now, as opposed to the other drugs, like were you working? Were you just stealing, or how were you able to fill that need for? You're talking about 9 months, which is like that's 270 days. That's a long time, and you're burning like $30 a day. That doesn't include your food. So
Mm.
I would
I'm
imagine
burning, I'm burning $30 a day times 5 or 10, depending on how
what do you
lucky I
mean?
get.
You mean oh, so you
I
at,
mean,
at
it's
minimum.
$30 a pill, and I want five of them minimum
Oh, it's
at
thirty
this
dollars a
point.
pill. Okay, so
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
not burning $30 a day. You're burning $150 a day.
yeah. So I mean, we had some hustles, and I would, you the classic buy in bulk, and then you sell whatever you can, and then you
Got
come
it.
up short, so you try to scramble because you're getting high, uh, stealing some stuff, selling everything you got that's worth anything. It was just, I mean, it seemed like just the hustle every day, man. I wish I could think
You
more
know
about
what's
what was working and what wasn't, but
you know what's interesting is the fact that you're telling me that you had friends and like other addicts find out other addicts. It's like they almost want to like suffer together. Like they feel good. Like, come on over here, let's suffer together. What is the reason? What do you think is behind that?
well, who else are you gonna hang out with? Because the straight shooter is not gonna tolerate you for long. I mean, you're late, you're a disaster, you're making stuff up, you're nodding out, you're undependable. I mean, it's nothing but terrible characteristics and traits. So uh, naturally, your social circle becomes other people getting high. Plus, you do them a favor one day, they do you a favor the next day. It's miserable, man. Yeah, it's
So
miserable.
So again, you wrote the book to help families, and if you have someone who's a that's their son, there's really, and you might want to elaborate more on this. There's really no hope. Like once you're a full-blown addict at that point of where you are, there's like it's not like tough. It's not like there's going to be your mom is. It's not like, oh, let's just see if we can just let him go through. It's at this point. It would you agree that it's about tough love right now? It's where
Oh, so
you've got to like be hard in putting the foot down and
yeah, it's
not giving your kids money is the answer.
no, 1,000%. I think that's. I'm glad you mentioned that. This defines the love them to death. You've heard that saying, "Love them to death." It's very understandable when you're talking about addicts because you don't know what to do. You don't want them homeless. You don't want them in the street. It's got to be painful. I mean, my parents to do what they did. I was their firstborn. They were proud of me my whole life. To kind of put the foot down. Exceptional work by them. Like, no, I'm sure it wasn't hard. I remember my mom took one of those Christmas candles and like the plug-in little plastic Christmas candles you put in the window. She kept one of those burning in the window every night, just thinking about me, and for some reason. But yeah, it's got to be painful for the parents. But I think that's what it takes, because you need it to run its course, and the enabling is not going to help. Any parent or loved one should check out like an Al-Anon group, and hope it's a good one, because there's some bad info out there. But yeah, tough love. Well said.
So giving your kids money is not the answer. When they ask for money, the best thing you could do is tell them no, and hell to the no.
Right. Absolutely. And let them know we're here to help when you're ready to go, but we're not helping with this.
But you got $2,200.
Well, I was able to rattle that out as being my money, which it was. Uh, and so
I think with all due respect, and I think you can correct me I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. They say in those movies like the zombie, once you get bit by the zombie, it like that guy's dead. It's pretty much that's the zombie alive. So
right.
really, I don't really think it was you that was rattling him out. I think at this point, and I said you could correct me if I'm wrong. I think the addiction took over, and I really think it was that addict speaking, that addict rattling it out. I don't even think, quite frankly, I think you were so night and day as far as where you are now that was a completely different person than who you are now. Like I probably wouldn't even recognize. We probably wouldn't even hang out if I knew you. It's just like you have none of those qualities of that old addict Jay. And
No.
like go ahead.
Well, you nailed it, man. It's that the addict takes over. I don't know if have you dealt with some addiction in friends or something
No,
that you know.
I'm a sex addict, so I know about addictive behavior, and I know that my dad was an alcoholic, so I know when
So
you
you
get.
saw it, and so when the storyline is like that money. I bet I asked for that money every day, 10 times a day. It's just you beat people down. It's the addict mind, just like, this is mine. You owe me this. Boom, 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 and you just beat people to death.
Yeah, and I think I think that's the role of the father. Say no, I'm not doing it, and I don't even know who the hell you are, and as hard as it is, I think the best answer is just be like get him out, because this is at this point this is not a son, this is an enemy. This is who is this person? I don't know who this person are. When my son comes back, he can come back, but I don't even know who you are. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, the problem with that money that we're talking about in the book, and maybe we shouldn't split hairs on this much longer, but eh, my dad is lives in a very black and white world, right? Right and wrong, this, that, and the other. So regardless of uh, whatever, it was my money. We had put it in this account. They had signed for it because of age or something. I couldn't remember. So I think he came around to like, that's Jay's money. What do we do? Much as the other decisions I was making to be homeless, this, that, and the other. Now they didn't give me a dime on top of that.
Got it.
I remember I think I don't know if I put in the book, when I was in treatment, I remember they didn't like tobacco either. And I remember they mailed me like 2 cans of tobacco the whole time
Yeah,
I
you
was
did
there.
put that. You did put
Did I
that.
put that in there? Oh man, I savored those, man. But yeah, so I
Uh,
mean, they
uh,
drew a pretty firm line.
yeah, I think that's okay because you're already in treatment at that point. Now,
Right.
I was kind of rooting when you saw that there was this one girl in there, like a red bone girl or something, and you actually didn't. I was kind of rooting. I'm like, dude, let it, get some pleasure, Jay. But you ended up not doing that. I was kind of disappointed in that. Thought
Yeah, it would have been a good chapter in the book. I
a
I
nice
I
tryst.
remember her a little bit fondly. Yeah. You know, uh
What stopped you? I mean, you're in a place where you're kind of locked up from your drug of pleasure. So what? I mean, what's and obviously that was a option that you could have done. What stopped you?
I think that you said the old Jay and the new Jay, and two different people. I think that the real Jay was starting to come back. And I was so focused, man, on beating that addiction. It would much be like, I guess, if you're in combat or something. I mean, you were in the military, I wasn't. But if you're in the middle of a firefight for your life, you're not gonna get distracted by a cute girl walking by, right? And so I think my mindset was like, this thing tried to kill me. multiple times. I'm here on a mission. This isn't playtime, and I was proud of myself for that when it was said and done. I think it kind of reinvigorated my uh like you can do this thing type mindset because that is, I mean, God, that would have been such a nice distraction, a check out for a minute, a dopamine release.
Yeah,
But it wasn't the mission.
that's was my next question, because a lot of this stuff is, if you eat good food, releases the same part of the brain. If you have an orgasm, releases the similar part of the brain, of course, and you get high, it releases that all that those pleasure receptors in the
Right.
center part of the brain. Did when you were an addict, did drugs and sex and other stuff go together with that? I mean, I'm assuming it would be, right?
Yeah, I mean, later on when I started smoking crack cocaine, then sex became a little more important to me. When I was getting high, I really just wanted to get high. I didn't want to share it with anybody. I didn't want anybody looking at what I had. You know what I mean? So I was pretty
Wow.
reclusive. Like I'd run around, but once I got my little stash in my pocket, I would typically disappear.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So we'll move on. From GPS and something first instinct was freeze. I couldn't believe what I was having in process. My aunt was staring at it. So you talked about the addiction as a saber-toothed tiger, and a guy with $100 bill in cash, or five. He was supposed to pay you $100 bill or five oxycodone 30 milligram pills, and all
Yeah,
of a sudden you saw that fear came up. And I know what it is. Let me tell you, I know what it is because I've been
it's
there.
primal.
And I still, and it's like, shit, I have got to do this. I don't care if I'm going to get in jail. I don't care. It's scary. You get so tempted. And I think the fear comes because you're afraid that you will fall into it again, and you will do something stupid because you don't trust yourself. You're still evolving as a new person, but that it's like it's still hooking on to you like just one last time. So you can elaborate on it more than I like I said, my addiction was a little bit different, but very similar type of stuff.
Viewer, this is I've done a classic trick to try to get sober, which is a new place. So I had moved about 2 hours away from home, and I had been doing pretty good. I was still wild, drinking this, that, and the other, but I hadn't touched the pain pills. And the way the devil works, or evil, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I had done an odd job for a guy, and we had done a little cocaine before. So I mean, we were pretty open about some drug use, and he decides to offer to pay me in my drug of choice, which was Percocets. And boy, that was so surreal, man. I mean, I maybe lived like 3, 4 minutes away from where his shop was, and I was driving home just shaking, dude, like viscerally shaking. I remember massive hits of adrenaline and stuff like that because I knew I had messed up. Like as soon as I said, "Give me the pills instead of the money," it was over with. Like the addiction had won at that point. Now I'm white knuckling those. I haven't done any yet. I get home, I go upstairs, I lay him on the dresser, and I couldn't tell you if it was 30 seconds or 30 minutes. I just sat there concocting the scheme. The addiction is now alive, and it's
The gun,
concocting the scheme
the
of,
trigger is pulled. The gun,
oh, the bullets
the,
out the barrel. Yeah.
the primer is hit, and there's nothing stopping from that
Dude,
bullet
there's
coming
nothing
out of that
stopping
barrel.
them. There's
And
nothing
see,
stopping.
that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't understand that is, well, why didn't you just stop? Or why didn't you just come to that point right before you're about to smoke it? They don't understand, like, when you have that, like, I'm gonna get this fixed and I'm gonna do this, it's almost like a shotgun blast, or it's like this is a chemical reaction that it's gonna happen. I think all
Mhm.
you have to do is just you've already made a decision in your mind. You're gonna get high.
Yeah, as soon as I said yes to the pills, it was over. Maybe it was 30, 45 minutes before I got high, but I was in full blown addiction again the minute I said, "Give me those." And then it was off to the races, and so that was a bad run. So yeah, I got my ass kicked for years. Let's fast forward to the good stuff because we're about to have a radical change here, right?
I don't want to
We're
give. I don't
close,
want to
aren't
give.
we?
I don't want to give the whole thing away, but we can. The next chapter
Let's give them
is
some hope.
we get the next chapter. We go bottomless relativity is the next chapter, and you talked about some.
So yeah, then we're running it pretty bad here. This is where I start smoking crack cocaine. I start doing heroin. Start robbing drug dealers. Yeah, this is where it gets crazy. So, important part of the book because it shows how fast this thing spirals. But let's find
Okay,
some hope. There's a little hope in this book
okay.
somewhere.
One bag to rule them all. I'll skip that one, and then good orderly direction. I had to no clue what to expect from detox. I thought I would probably be a hospital. Now, there was a point where you made a decision where, look, I'm going to get in a detox. I'm going to change my life. And your dad met you at the airport. When you said he met you at the
Yeah.
airport, he looked a lot older and he looked at you
Yeah.
like with speculation and like you were a stranger, like he didn't know who you were. How did that feel that your own
Yeah,
father
that was odd.
didn't even
Yeah. So
understand?
that was in between. Yeah, sorry, G. No, that was in between detox and so maybe we should go back just a little bit. I'll run it for
You told me.
a
You
few more
told me.
years.
Yeah. Okay.
No, we're right where we need to be. So I'll run it for a few years, and I finally, there wasn't a huge catalyst. I had stolen some money from my brother, who always looked up to me, and I
Yeah.
actually had the money at that time. I had a good little hustle going, and but I was in Knoxville visiting them for whatever reason, and I take I steal. He had this old safe where he keep like a little bit of money in,
I
like a
remember
not a
reading that
safe, just a
story,
locker
man.
box,
I was like, damn.
dude.
Hmm.
Oh my god, 111, 112, 113, and somewhere in like the 5 or 6 hundreds, I hit the combo on this thing,
Yeah.
and I grab a couple $100. I'm like, I'm gonna go get high first, then I'll go get some money, replace it. Nobody will be the wiser. And for some reason, man, I wonder if I was like sabotaging myself just to see how like big a scumbag I really was. I don't know. So I get high, and this like for 2 or 3 weeks, this has bothered me that like I've stolen this from my brother, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna kick his stuff. And so I start going through detox, and like I'm about 36 hours in, 72 hours being the real where it really starts working you, and I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. Uh, so I call my parents, hey, it's happened again. I'm getting, I'm in bad shape. Can I drive to y'all's house and just detox on the couch, like as a safe spot? Like I can't be down here in this city where I can get dope so easy. So being the good parents they are, they say, we'll come get you. And so this is where I decide I've got 2 hours of them coming to get me, and I decide I'm gonna self detox using ketamine. You remember this part?
Hmm.
So I get a bunch of ketamine, and we go up to Knoxville, and I spend 3 or 4 days just absolutely in a K hole, sniffing massive amounts of ketamine. And my poor parents who know nothing, they're Googling opiate detox, and the symptoms are runny nose, shakes, upset stomach. And my symptoms, because I'm in a ketamine hole,
They're,
are like
they're thinking
disassociation.
they're thinking you stopped the drugs and that you were trying to get better this whole time.
Right. But they're like, this ain't the same symptoms that we're seeing on Google about what stopping opiates looks like. Like this
Yeah.
dude's a
Uh-huh.
madman. So they so finally there's a great part in the book. I'm not gonna ruin it. You gotta read it. My poor old mom cracks the case here on what's really going on.
Oh yeah.
And they find a detox for me, and I'm not super willing, but also I'm like, something's got to change. So I head off to detox, which I didn't even know was a thing. Thank God they exist. And yeah, so that brings us to where you fast forwarded to. I do detox. I'm in a blur the whole time, and while I'm in detox, my parents strongly suggest doing treatment afterwards. And thank God I said okay. I basically was such a pansy and so stupid that I used the excuse of I'll do it for them, not realizing how like I thought I had the code cracked after 5 days of being sober, not even sober on detox meds. And so yeah, I meet my dad at the airport, and I'm expecting like, oh, there's my son doing this deal and handling business, and he was very skeptical, and that was, I mean, it was probably a great tone to take. Like it woke me up to like, man, you're like running out of rope, I guess, you know. like this is your own daddy, and he don't believe you're gonna pull it off. The same dad that watched you hit the baseball and watched you shoot the basketball and watched you score your grades and watched you grow up and drive your first car and turn into a man is skeptical that you're going to be able to do this. Uh, and
It's
probably tired of getting hurt, man.
yeah, because but I think what people don't understand is that when you're an addict and you're in the addiction, like yeah, you still are who you are, but you're not in control. You really are not in control, and something is just really propelling you towards getting this fix. And people think that well we could just stop at any point, but it doesn't work like that. And you were telling me last time that 90% of addicts that go into treatment, mind you, that's thousands of dollars, end up relapsing, and only 10% actually stay sober free and don't relapse. Now, I wonder of that 10%, actually, how long they stay. Is it the rest of their lives, or was that
That,
during a certain period of time?
yeah, as best as you can track that data, it's for the rest of their lives. Um, so yeah, 1 out of 10, man, it's not good. I think it could be harder, higher. I think everybody can do it. I
What do
believe
you
there's some.
think? What do you think is the missing piece? Is it the accountability aspect that once you leave the treatment center, you're on your own?
I I'll tell you my guess. I don't want to speak from any position of authority on this because I don't want to steer
Of
somebody
course, yes, an
astray.
opinion.
Yeah, I think y- you you really got to get look at finding some kind of God. I would recommend Jesus or the God as we know him from the Christian religion, but start somewhere because you're fighting what I describe in the book is like a supreme evil. A single man, a single woman is not equipped to win that battle by themselves.
Okay, so let's look at that, right? We want to look at Jesus as an example. He had disciples, and he
Hmm.
had a community, and he had accountability. So these guys, like when he, left, it wasn't like that. They didn't all go home. Some of them went back to being fishermen and all that stuff, but they kind of like gathered around, kind of had a thing going on. They kind of had a community going on.
Hmm.
And I think that's what the missing piece is, that if you don't feel like you belong anywhere, you don't feel valuable or valued, especially someone who's maybe single or doesn't have a family, you're alone in that mirror. And guess who's staring back at you? It's that old person, that old addiction that said just one more high.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
You nailed it. The addict's worst company is their own, and only their own. If you're isolating, if you're hanging out by yourself, it's yeah, it's coming for you. So I think you nailed it, man. Community is a big piece. The right community, obviously, you don't want to go back and hang out with the same friends that you were getting high with. You need to relationship with some people.
So I think maybe the solution, and this could be the evolution of future treatment, is maybe like a subscription based type service to where people are accountable either via Zoom or meeting once a week or that kind of thing. I know they have Alcoholic Anonymous. Don't they have a Narcotics Anonymous? Doesn't that help a lot of people that in doing that?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Massive, massive help. And they're all those 12 steps are based on the same general premise that's been uh, tried and tested. Those 12 steps. Yeah, I think they work fantastically. They it's not easy, but it's simple. And but everything I mean, communities in there. Power greater than yourself, a godlike figure is in there. So I mean, basically, what you've come up with uh, just by being astute and paying attention is what the big book figured out. It's
We've got
what 80
about
years ago.
we've got about 8 minutes left. What does treatment actually look like when you get to the detox center? Obviously, you're going to have a desire to get high again, and there's also obviously some people that bring in drugs in there. I mean, I'm sure you could sneak drugs in, right? I mean, that shouldn't be too
Oh
hard.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's a You got some people there for the right reason. You got some people there because the judge told them to go. You got some people there because mommy and daddy told them to go. You got some there because their wife said, "I'm leaving you if you don't go." So you got a melting pot of a bunch of people. You're when you first dry out, your emotions go crazy. I remember I was crying. I mean, your brain is just firing, and it's been muted for so long, especially on opiates. So yeah, it's wild when you're in there. Your brain snapping. You're emotional. You're up. You're down. You're sad. You're happy. You're laughing for the first time.
How long
Uh,
is this period going on like that?
I mean, detox is 5 to 7 days. You're on drugs. I mean, medically administered drugs to keep you from kicking too bad, and then uh, you start
It must
with the
be hell.
treatment phase like a residential. It's hell, but there's some beauty in there too. I had an early realization where I felt so bad, man. They tried to put me back on detox meds because I was in such bad shape, and I just refused them, man. And I remember I was in Texas, the sun was beating down, and I was like in a blanket, like shivering on like day 10 or something. And I was like, holy moly, have I beat my body up so badly that I'm 10 days plus 10 days of detox or however long that I still feel this bad? I was like, I was way out of whack. And so yeah, I felt like crap, but I was like, I deserve to, right? The devil's gonna get paid his due. You're gonna pay your pound of flesh, and then you start getting some beauty. I put in the book the story of hearing those birds chirp. Man, I hadn't heard birds chirp in years. I just been so muted and not paying attention. So some little beautiful things like that start to happen. Started praying again.
That's
Um,
10 days, right?
That's around like the 10-day mark. Yeah, 10, 14 days maybe. And I start feeling a little bit better. I'm jogging a little bit. I'm shooting hoops. Yeah, I start praying and I start to feel a connection to God again. I mean, the drugs is if we believe in God, we obviously believe in the devil. Those drugs are as close to the devil as you can manifest in this world.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, so I've been serving that for so
We're
long. I
talking
certainly
about to define, explain those drugs, define those drugs, viewers who have not read the book.
the opiates, pain pills.
So it's the pain pills. You were hooked on the when you're doing a detox. You were addicted to painkillers and what else?
I was smoking crack. I mean, there's really no detox for that. I was doing a little bit of Xanax, just they're cheap and easy. But I mean, basically, heroin and opiate are just, uh,
The
I mean,
painkillers were stronger than the crack.
kind of apples and oranges. Gee, like it's a little bit different. I didn't even like crack cocaine, to be honest with you. Couldn't
Really?
stand it. Yeah, but I would smoke the hell out of it, man. It's wild. I didn't like the way it made me feel, but it's so addictive that in fact, like with a year sober, I would be driving near asphalt or something, and I would still get like a smell that just reminded me of crack cocaine, man. Just something was bizarre,
You mean fresh poured
bizarre.
asphalt?
Yeah,
Okay.
doesn't even really smell like it. It just did it for me. I mean, the brain is a crazy thing, and
Wow. Okay, we're at four
yeah.
minutes. Um, So yeah, wow, that's very interesting. I'll tell you, I've not unlike sex addiction, which sex is good, it's just dangerous, addiction. But I've come out of that.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, can I ask you a question, G?
yeah, yeah,
That I'm curious about as we talk. So I as an addict, no, I'm not ever gonna touch pain pills again. Save if I get in some kind of accident, wake up
right,
at the hospital, and then
right.
I'm gonna be fortified and I'm gonna be ready to go. How do you handle something like a sex addiction where you obviously don't want to never have sex again because it can be a positive.
Right,
How do you
right,
handle that?
right. Yeah, well, my definition of unhealthy, there's a definition. Sex isn't bad. It's what it is it's unhealthy sexual behavior. So, like, having sex with strangers without a condom is unhealthy sexual is a definition of unhealthy sexual behavior. It's not that I don't want to have sex again. I have a very active sex life, but it's unhealthy deviant sexual behavior is the definition of things that I want to stay away from. So, So it's a little bit different as far as opposed to opiates. Because obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, you never want to smoke crack again for the rest of your life. You never can do it in a healthy, safe way. But sex, you
Hmm.
can do it in a healthy, safe way, just like eating good food. And there's also the other part of it too is the compulsion. Is the compulsion. Can you
Right.
control the compulsion? If you can't, that's the dangerous area.
Right.
So
So how do you do with the addict mind not letting it, much like the $100 bill or the 5 pills, when you're how do you draw lines in the sand of like, this is appropriate and this it might be dangerous and this, like, if we go
I
on 5 dates it's normal, but if I hit it the first night it's close to you know what I mean, like how do you do that when it's, how do you blend
Well,
that?
I mean, if you're having unprotected sex with strangers, I mean, obviously that's deviant sexual. That's a definition of deviant sexual behavior. But if you have it with someone that you care about, or someone that's an enjoyable situation where you guys two meet, I mean, then that's something that's completely different. Now, I define it as junk food. You can't eat junk food every day, but sometimes you want to go eat some ice cream. So it just depends on if you're doing it safely, protected way, in a right way, and you're not going into like a dungeon or anything like that. Then that's the definition of okay. But the deviant sexual behavior is where it's a unstoppable compulsion at the expense of your health or safety.